And welcome back to the Arsenal podcast. We've had a little short break, slightly unplanned hiatus, but we're back once again to talk all things and everything Arsenal Football Club. And what a lovely podcast we have for you this evening, as a rarity in beating our most hated of, we'd say rivals, but haven't really, because we've been streets behind them in the past. But fantastic win against Chelsea. We'll talk about that for the majority of the show. We'll also touch upon Basel coming up on Wednesday night, I believe, in the Champions League. A few bits and pieces elsewhere, maybe taking a look at our nearest rivals, but essentially wholly Arsenal for the next 30 to 35 minutes. And I am delighted to welcome back to the show from his American vacation? I'm trying to think of the right term. Well, anyway, it's Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Yes.
I haven't got an accent either, which some people might have been expecting.
2 weeks is not long enough for an accent. It's not like you've emigrated to the States or anything. Did you have a nice time? So you're out, what area were you in?
Well, it was all along the East Coast. So I started in Boston and then worked my way down to Washington, D.C.
Boston. Boston. I thought you'd say.
Yeah.
Can you say Boston?
Yeah.
Can you say? Well, no. Can you say Boston? Can you say Boston?
In the accent.
Yeah. Can you say Boston?
Not very well.
Boston. We'll leave it there. You know. Did you see any US Gooners out there by any chance?
We went into one bar in Boston during the PSG game, which was just full of Gooners. And my dad, being the genius he is...
It's clearly an emotional time for you, Rob.
Not being an Arsenal fan and being a Wolves fan, walked in and went, "Oh, son, it's full of Gooners." And everyone just looked around and stared at us. So we were like, okay, we should probably have one drink and then depart very quickly.
Whereabouts was this? It sounds like you were in flipping Nebraska or something, not the East Coast. So you walked into one of those old school saloons you walked into, and you walk in and all the heads turn around. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And also with us we have Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
You've obviously not been to America yourself.
No.
As
much as I would have liked to have been, but there we go.
Indeed. But we're delighted to have you back anyway. Let's get onto it. I mean, Chelsea. It was kind of reminiscent of when we played United last season, when we completely took them to the cleaners in the first half, and it was pretty much over. I do think the game could have been very different if it wasn't for the wonderful Gary Cahill deciding to give the ball basically to Alexis Sanchez. I don't know who does that. He's not the greatest defender, but when you've got one of the most dangerous attacking players in world football, buzzing around you like that, you don't really just give it to him to say, "Oh, go on, Alexis, have a one-on-one chance with our keeper who's horribly out of form right now." So it was a wonderful result. It's the first time we've won in 5 years, I believe, and the first time we've scored against them in 3 years. So there was a lot of good things to come from it. We'll sort of break it down individually, and I suppose we'll talk about the mistake. Yeah, so it started. There was a good tempo to the game to begin with, but it did seem like the opening goal would be kind of crucial. Is that the way you saw it, Rob?
Definitely. Looking back, I don't know why I was so down on this game, but it was approaching 5:30, and I was like, do I really... I was pretty jet lagged at this point, being up for about 27 hours, but thinking, do I really want to sit and watch Diego Costa get one of our defenders sent off? He scores the winning goal, and we lose 1-0 to Chelsea again, as the script always goes.
Now, you see, I was really pumped up for yesterday's game because I knew that we had a couple of... for one, we didn't have Per Mertesacker in defence,
which is a good start.
Which is a good start. As much as I love BFG, and a couple of other key players that we'll go on to. But I was really psyched for that. I don't know why. I thought, well, even if we're going to lose, it felt kind of different. But yeah. So the Cahill's error. That was wholly preventable, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't really know what he was doing, because to be honest, had he have followed through with the back pass, it didn't actually look as if it was going to be any help for Courtois, who I think could have been caught short with Alexis running onto it anyway. So he really just absolutely pooed the bed really with that. Luiz was completely out of position as per usual as well, which didn't really help him. But Chelsea at the back, yes, they looked atrocious. I've never really seen them look so bad. Even last season.
Ever since that they've signed David Luiz, they've been a shambles. And even he didn't play in the first game, but ever since they signed him, it's like, oh God, just that. I think it's one of those craziest decisions to bring him back. I know it was, of all panic buys, you could suggest he was it, because they went after Koulibaly, failed. There was interest in Stones, but obviously that wasn't ever going to happen. A couple of other names touted, and at the end of the day, Conte thought, like, they tried to get Bonucci. Maybe he was the number one target, but Juventus were never going to play ball because they need him. And yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know if it'll work when I think eventually Conte wants to switch to a back three, and I presume that'll be either when Terry or Zuma comes back. Presumably Zuma, more crucially, because Terry must be on his last stand now with Chelsea.
You say that, but since he's been out, they've looked hopeless.
They have looked worse, but I mean that's probably just because John Terry isn't there to command where everyone needs to be. But they need a bit of pace in that back four, because Cale's painfully slow and Luiz isn't the quickest either. So Zuma would probably be more crucial to a back three for them than Terry at the minute. But,
I think that
Zuma can't organise, so
and Zuma's still a month away. So and he's got things to worry about, and Conte will have things to worry about, like he'll break down again after his long-term injury, which is very likely. And I don't see any stability in that Chelsea defence. Unlike us, I have to say. I was really excited when we signed Mustafi, and after a bit of a dodgy showing against Southampton, he was excellent. I've never seen one of our defensive, a partner for Koscielny, diving down to the floor to diving header, clear a ball away so many times. It's fantastic to see. So Mustafi and Koscielny partnerships, I'm really excited about. Again, I think it's quite difficult to kind of gauge it based on the fact that we played such a poor Chelsea side. I mean, really poor. And again, not wanting to cover the old cliches about, it's like, well, how good were we and how bad were they? I think we generally were pretty good, and we play them off the park. But those two defensively, and also Bellerin, I'm not sure what he was doing inside the penalty area for Theo Walcott's goal, but I mean, credit where credit's due, Matt. He slipped the ball in rather nicely, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, just complete Wenger ball, really, that second goal.
That was lovely.
Just despite how bad Chelsea were at the back, as you were saying, I mean, when we're in that kind of mood, it is incredibly hard to stop us. And I think that was sort of the best thing about this performance, and we just need to try and keep that consistency now as well.
Do you know, it wasn't until after sort of mid through the game I was checking out the stats in the old fantasy team that I realised, oh crap, that was actually Hector Bellerin and not, it looked like Theo Walcott. That obviously he scored, or Sanchez, sorry, it looked like when he laid it off to Walcott. So it was good to see. I mean, kind of alarming, but keeping on Bellerin, his tackle to get back at Costa at the end of the game was fantastic. Showed his absolute lightning pace. Koscielny was beaten, but then this kid just runs at him from nowhere and cuts the ball out. It was incredible to see. What did you think of Monreal also, Matt?
I didn't think he had the greatest of starts to the game when Willian was getting down that right hand side, and Monreal seemed to get sort of dragged across a bit, but he sort of became more solid as the game went on. So yeah, I just think defensively we were pretty solid, and we managed to keep Diego Costa quiet, which was the main thing, because I thought going into that game it was inevitable that he was going to score, but they just didn't really show up, thankfully. Yeah,
I think Monreal was certainly towards the end of the game when Wenger did his tried and trusted trick of, I think it was 2 years ago, when he brings on Kieran Gibbs for the left for the winger as it was at Iwobi as it was, and kind of shut up shop. And that point, when you've got Gibbs who can hair up the wing, Monreal was able to kind of assert his authority aerially, and in about 3 or 4 occasions he was up to the ball first ahead of probably Ivanovic, and when Batshuayi came on, I think they sort of juggled the formation a little bit, Chelsea. That was really good to see as well. So Rob, I mean, it's really good to see. It's beating United last season 3-0, and Chelsea now 3-0, and obviously getting that massive hoodoo out of the way. So it's good to finally see that we can actually win the big games against the so-called big teams. Do you not think?
It is. I mean, we've beaten Man City a few times in the last couple of years as well. And it has been a stumbling block for us, really, that we were pretty much flat track buddy for so long that we would always beat all the mid-table sides, but struggle against the big guns, and that would let us down. So you're right. It is nice that we seem to have broken that hoodoo, really, that jinx, and hopefully we can carry it on during the season, because we are playing massive catch-up with Man City at the minute, who look like an unstoppable runaway train, to be quite honest, at the top of the league, 6 wins out of 6, and absolutely hammering United a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I want to touch on Man City a little bit later, but I mean, I'm already looking forward to the Man City game. I mean, it's probably unlikely to decide anything with any real certainty, but I don't know if we can.
We have a decent record against Guardiola when you think that we've beaten, although we have been hammered by a couple of his sides in the past. We have beaten his Bayern side obviously last season, and we beat his Barcelona side a couple of years ago as well.
Sharvin.
It's not completely out of the question that we get a decent result against City.
Quickly going back to the Hector Bellerin, how much do you think he's worth?
A lot of money.
Yeah. Because the rumours about Barcelona and Man City have come up again. It's like, well, go on. The two of you just sort off and do us all a favour in as many words. Sort of ballpark figure. He's a guy who's I've never seen. I think Bellerin in the air yesterday was superb, and I don't really associate Bellerin with aerial ability, but he was excellent yesterday. But then he's got the pace. He assists. He scores occasionally. He is kind of like Dani Alves, almost better. Is that a controversial statement to make?
I wouldn't say so, no.
No.
I mean, I think the key thing is that if Barcelona do end up bidding for him, which seems inevitable, then I think whatever the price that they bid, I think we absolutely have to keep hold of him, because the age that he's at and the quality that he's at already, I think he could easily be our right back for the next sort of 8 to 10 years.
Oh, we're talking legacy of Spanish players. I mean, he could easily. I mean, I'm thinking of Michel Salgado and Hector Bellerin in the same kind of bracket. I think that's how good he could be if he stays fit. I think so we're talking about fee. Is 40 million too much for a right back? I don't think it is it? If Fabio Contrail went to Real Madrid from Benfica for, I think it was 26, is that too much?
No, I'd be wanting a record fee for a fullback.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
I know, like, if there's fans of other clubs hearing this, they're just going to get laughed at. Like, listen to those Arsenal fans. They want like world record fees for their 21-year-old right back who's, not the full package yet. But he really is amazing, and for his age, we can't be getting like dicked about with like £20 million for him or anything, because he could be the as good as players like Dani Alves and Salgado, like you've said.
Yes. So I said the word Iwobi a little bit ago. I think he was the key to our win yesterday. I think he was absolutely magnificent. He set up the second goal. He created the chance. And I think they were saying on BT Sport, and largely I take quite a bit of a pinch of salt with what BT Sport say, but he was saying that there was nothing that Chelsea hadn't faced before. But I was thinking, no, hold on, Alex Iwobi. Chelsea have never faced Alex Iwobi before, and he was the difference for me, because they just couldn't get near him, and his footwork was amazing, his calmness and his swagger, and his he rarely misplayed a ball, and it's like I've argued with quite a few people now that, not argued, but pointed out that Iwobi should be starting 11. He has to be all the time. I don't care when Ramsey comes back. Something's got to be sorted, because he has to play. Matt, agreed?
Definitely. I mean, I haven't seen. I don't know whether I've said this already, but I haven't seen a player come into the first team and just hit the ground running so quickly. He just seems adaptable to every kind of situation, and he's become that sort of consistent player that you can rely on, and he turns up in the big games. So whenever, if you said Ramsey comes back, I think Iwobi has to start, providing he maintains this form.
Oh yeah, providing he maintains his form. But I don't see. We said on the show last year that I suggested is Iwobi, is that kind of it for the guy who wears the slippers on a football pitch. But I mean, he's shown he looks bigger now since this season from last season. I don't know. He looks like he's starting to look a bit like Martial, I think. Only actually
a better version.
Yeah, a better version. Yeah. I think it's just vital, and he seemed to. I think he played on the right wing to begin with yesterday, didn't he? Or was it the left? I know against Hull he played on the right, and Bellerin absolutely loved it because he got all the space in the world to create to get forward and create chances, as he likes to do. But yeah, he did seem to be on the left quite a bit yesterday. But then he was bossing the D around the area and just slightly to the left of it as well. And he was bossing Ivanovic and Luis, which is again not a difficult thing to do. But yeah, it was magnificent. Rob, what are your thoughts on Iwobi yesterday?
He was brilliant. What I really love about Iwobi is he's not like a young. Sometimes you'll get young wingers and it's all about the pace, and they're brilliantly quick, blisteringly quick, and that's almost all their game. And it's sort of they might look onto a couple of goals or a couple of assists because they're pacier than the experienced defenders they're up against. But that's not really the case of Iwobi. Not that he's slow. I think I sort of made this point before that what I really like about him is how good he is on the ball, how good he is technically. He can find a pass, and he gets a fair few key chances made and assists made by really just being excellent with the ball at his feet. He's not like a Walcott or a Chamberlain who can sometimes run at players or run into the space really quickly. He's brilliant at finding passes, which is what I absolutely love about him.
Yeah, agreed. I think also with Iwobi, I think Wenger likes him a lot. So I think you're thinking, right, he's not the biggest name, but he's a vital cog in the works. In the way Arsenal work. So yeah, I mean, I can see him starting him. I think the only question is where he is on the pecking order in the Champions League. He's probably going to start against Basel, you'd think, and depending on how long the game he plays, how many minutes, then obviously it's Burnley away at the weekend. So again, depending on Ramsey and how we might start to kind of change the system a little bit, especially with a certain individual who I'm going to mention in just a few minutes, that will be interesting to see. Okay, with two players we kind of wrote off over the summer and at the beginning of the season, Raheem Sterling being one and Theo Walcott being another. Theo Walcott has come into this season. I think he had. We all saw his pre-season friendly against. Now remind me who it was in the States.
Played the MLS All Stars, and
that's right. And he had an absolute shocker.
Yeah.
And we were all like, oh god. But to be fair to him, he's come into the season, and the stats don't lie really. I mean, he scored 3 goals and he's got 2 assists in 6 games. I mean, that's pretty impressive, is it not? Do we think he can keep this up, Matt?
Hopefully, but I mean, we know what Theo Walcott's like. He can go hot and cold. But
it's not like with Walcott. It's not like he's got a new manager that's changed it with, as we've seen with Guardiola, as he's done something to Sterling that makes us all doubt as well. Maybe this guy is pretty talented and pretty unique. But I'm not sure. Anyway, carry on with your point.
Yeah, no, I think yesterday. I mean, I don't know what I was really expecting from Walcott this season, but yesterday, for me, it's the best I've seen him play in probably the last season and a half to 2 years. I mean,
would you go as far as saying it's the best he's played since he scored that goal against Chelsea at Wembley, or was it the Millennium Stadium? I can't remember. In Cardiff.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I mean, we know over the last couple of years or so that when Walcott's played against a big team, he's usually done quite well, and he seems to crop up with goals against Man City. He always crops up with a goal against Liverpool. And he seems to do it against Chelsea as well. So I mean, if he can maintain it, I mean, it'll be brilliant for our team.
Indeed, yeah. Rob, Theo, Walcott.
He's certainly a player I've criticised a lot in the past, but I think that it's probably one of his best ever Arsenal performances yesterday, and not just because he got a goal and did quite well. Well, he just did quite well everywhere. He was tracking back. There was a point.
That is what I'm most impressed with.
There was a point. I can't remember when it was in the game, but I think he won the ball off
Hazard. I think it was.
Yeah, it was Hazard, and then like nutmegged him and started an attack, and it was like, whoa, who's this guy who's like ran all this way back and started this, and he's like deep in his own half. This isn't the Theo Walcott I remember.
And then in the Leicester game, he tracked back a lot, and against Watford as well. And it's like, it's strange. Like I feel wrong to have slagged him off. I mean, I think the criticism was absolutely just from all parties. And so so maybe the jury is once again out on Theo Walcott. How many times have we said that? Goodness me. But he's that front three we've got. It's pretty dynamic with Theo's pace, occasional ability to score goals. But as I suggested a couple of weeks ago, his distribution is so much improved. And then you've got Iwobi. You've got the calm. You've got the, as I say, you've got the suave man with the slippers on the football pitch, and he's running around. And then you've got Özil, who can play like spray the wonderful ball and then score goals like he did yesterday. And again, looking really sharp and also taller. I don't know if he's been on the rack or not. Not that he needs to be. And it's just like it's looking very good now. That's the only thing we've got players like Perez and Giroud on the sidelines, and Ramsey's going to come in, and then Chamberlain, who's really looking pretty poor for our attacking front three duo now, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, hopefully you don't want to change this system we've got because it's not broken, but we'll see. So 3-0 up, and Coquelin gets injured. You think, okay, but then having wanted to see Granit Xhaka start the game, we got that. And I thought when he came on, he was just such a calming influence in front of that, as a proper DMF against Chelsea, we've wanted for so long, so many years, and especially now we've got that Mustafi and Koscielny, and we've got a really pretty decent defensive unit now. Certainly yesterday there, and I thought he didn't come on, and I think Costa tried to wind him up a bit, but he just sort of like, I think he might have got booked on one occasion, but he came on. It was just like he was so calm, and the fans absolutely love him. Obviously because of his granite bombs, as I think we're crowning them now. 2 of which it's just fantastic to see. The fans just absolutely love him. Matt, is there granite love? Yeah.
Oh, there is granite love, plenty of granite love. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand why we haven't been starting him, to be quite honest. I think the thing about Coquelin was yesterday, I thought until he came off with that injury, he was having a decent game, and then he gets that injury and you kind of think, oh, typical. But then you have Xhaka to come on, and everybody's wish is granted, and he had a good game. So I mean, I don't know how long Coquelin will be out for, but it seems as though that Xhaka will finally get his chance now.
Well, I don't know. I kind of agree with what Wenger's doing with the new signings, sort of easing Perez into games in the EFL Cup when he can bang a couple of goals in and get his confidence up before then kind of rushing him into a game. And I think it's the same with Xhaka, especially I think he came on. When was his day? He came on his day when he got booked pretty soon after he was brought on, and yeah, he wants to protect him because if he doesn't, and if it doesn't really, a potentially ill-disciplined player on the pitch, and his career could start poorly. I don't think the fans now care if he gets sent off because they've got a guy who's kind of got the Paul Pogba's about him and is a third cheaper. So I mean, and also I mean, on the argument about that quite a few of us had about Conte or Xhaka, and Conte's really struggling at Chelsea. Different system, and with a new manager who's himself trying to set them up. but his passing was pretty woeful against us, which was kind of pleasant to see. To see what we could have had and what we actually have. Yeah, Rob, what are your thoughts on Mr. Xhaka?
I love him. I really do. I think he's been an absolute revelation revelation almost makes him sound like that Kante level of he was only 5 million, but he's not. He's 30 million. But he's been brilliant since he signed. I mean, I sort of understood yesterday why he perhaps didn't start, because he came straight on after Coquelin went off and flew into a tackle, I think, with Costa and almost got himself booked straight away. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
God. I was thinking, okay, there's a reason he didn't start the game, because Wenger probably realised that he would be the first person that Costa would wind up.
Yeah, if we were going to win the game, discipline was key. So
yeah.
There was an argument for him starting and not, and Coquelin got sent off last time we played Chelsea, I believe, and I think the year before that, or perhaps earlier in the season we had 9 men, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or was that the season before when Chamberlain? I think it was Chamberlain got sent off. Not sure. It was the fake yellow card, wasn't it? The fake red card. Here at the Gibbs and Chamberlain, I think that was.
That was the 6-0 game, I think.
Possibly 6-1, I think it was. But anyway,
yeah, there was a lot of those.
Yeah, so
I
don't know why we're dwelling on that, because it's in the past, you know.
We have got a habit of getting players sent off against Chelsea.
So you think that came into Wenger's mindset?
Potentially. I mean, he has. It's not as if like Xhaka started every game until that Chelsea game. He didn't start last weekend against Hull. But I mean, you never want to see a player get injured. But Coquelin, if he's got a sustained run out of the team because of this injury, at least it does mean that Xhaka might get some more minutes and absolutely dominate that midfield as he's been doing when he's been given the opportunity to.
Yeah. So with it sounds like Ramsey's returned to training, and he might take part in at least part of the game against Basel at the Emirates on Wednesday night. Where do you think now where is Ramsey in the pecking order, Matt? Do you think?
I think it's quite difficult to tell, especially with how well, as we said, Jack has started at Arsenal. But I mean, I really don't know, because he had a great Euro 2016 campaign with Wales playing in that number 10 position, but he isn't going to dislodge Ozil. And I think if Wenger continues with Cazorla, I think the only way that Ramsey is going to get into this team is by playing sort of in a wider role potentially. But it is a difficult one. I don't really know.
I think it will be, and I I love Ramsey, but I think maybe a spell on as a substitute option is good for him, and we can then kind of differentiate the difference between what's missing without him and then what it's like on the pitch with him. And I think whether he'll start against Basel, I don't know, and certainly in a Premier League game after he's been out for quite a while. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, it's not confirmed that he's going to return, but it's a rumour, but it will be good to have him back. But again, at the moment, it doesn't feel like we actually need him. Like in the past, we've never talked about this. Like we do have a lot of depth going on at the club at the moment, and I think on one hand it's quite fortunate, but then on the other hand, you do have to credit Wenger when it's merited, and it is at the moment, I think. So yeah, Diego Costa was continually frustrated. It was an absolute joy to watch, I have to say. It's like you must have seen him at half time when he was just absolutely irate because he couldn't get the ball, and when he did, you had Coquelin was either snapping his heels or Mustafi was playing quite high, but he was always intercepting the ball. It was so refreshing to see. Like, I know we all feared at the start of the game, it's Diego Costa, he just always scores against us, but it wasn't the case, Rob.
No, it really wasn't. I've never really seen him so stifled since he returned to form last season after Mourinho left. But it was an excellent game plan against him. We didn't give him an inch, didn't give him any time on the ball really to start anything. There was only very scant chances that he had towards the end of the game. That one where There's a bit of a mix-up between Mustafi and Koscielny, but Bellerin got back. I do like Diego Costa when he's not playing against Arsenal. I find some of his antics quite amusing some of the time, and I also think he's quite a decent goal scorer.
He's in good form as well.
He is
joint top scorer with Aguero now.
Yeah, I mean he's had a pretty awesome start to the season, really, under Conte. Controversially, of course, because I think every one of his winning goals shouldn't have happened because he shouldn't have been on the pitch, if you ask the opposition manager. But we bossed him yesterday. I mean, he really struggled to get into the game, and it was summed it all up when he got the yellow cards in the last 10 minutes. When
the cheer that went around the Emirates was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? It's like, yes, we've broken him. It's like he can't do anything. Even at that point, he could have had an effect in the game. I think when Batshuayi came on, I think it was his pass, wasn't it? He should probably got an assist for that, and that was wasted. But I mean, largely he was a passenger, and it does show that you can sort of handle him. And I don't know what was done on the training ground to say, look, we're not going to fall into the Costa trap, and we didn't, happily. So we're third in the table, point behind Spurs, at lot. And I'm trying to look already at the fixture list when Spurs might start dropping points. Obviously, they have Man City next weekend, so the way Man City playing, I cannot see anything else but a City win, which means that providing we turn up to Turf Moor and beat Burnley, which on the back of the whole result you would probably expect, then we should be second. So yes, still, in that case we'll be still 5 points behind City, but considering the start we had, not bad at all. So quickly moving on to the Basel game. Are you nervous about this? I mean, the PSG performance, I think, was we did well to scrape out of that with a point. I mean, but I think that's going to be a lot of teams that go to the Parc des Princes and struggle against PSG at home. So I think just to get that point is a magnificent result, and that does put us on the front foot going forward. Are you concerned about Basel, or are you relatively confident? You think we should have 4 points on the board? Obviously, there's a bit of a narrative with Xhaka and El Neni meeting up their old clubs. Whether they'll play again or not, I don't know, is another matter. What do we think, Rob?
After watching yesterday, I'm fairly confident we'll get 3 points on that one. I know Basel have quite a decent record of English teams, but I think that's mostly at St Jakob rather than away from home. So I'm quietly confident that we should win this one, really. Although, how often do these things actually go to plan with Arsenal?
Well, yeah, indeed. I was having a quick look at the Basel squad, and before I do that, I mean, Matt, what are your thoughts on the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, similar to Rob, really. I mean, we've had that knack of kind of making life tough for ourselves in these kind of matches, but I am quietly confident that we'll go and do the job.
What kind of team do we think that we might put out?
Well, I would have originally said maybe Giroud, but of course he's suspended, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's a pretty similar lineup to the one we saw against Chelsea.
That's a good point about Giroud, yeah. So probably an argument to play Perez, maybe?
Potentially, yeah.
Up front, you would think?
Depends completely if Wenger sort of, wants to rest anyone for the weekend, whether Iwobi has a game off and Sanchez moves out wide and Perez goes up front, but I don't know. I think Xhaka will start though.
Okay. What I saw of Basel in their first game, which I believe was 2-2, wasn't it, against Ludogorets? Yeah, I believe it was. They had obviously Bjarke Bjarnason, who was quite a handful in the Euros for Iceland. They have Adama Traore, I think at right back, who had a bit of a rubbish spell at Aston Villa, but then Aston Villa were pretty rubbish at that stage and largely still are, sorry Villa fans. And they've got up front, they'll have Mark Janko, who was an absolute passenger for Austria in the Euros, and obviously Talon Xhaka, his brother. So that might be another that is definitely another narrative you would think. Be interesting to see what kind of tackles will be going in. And actually, they do have Doumbia on loan Basel at the moment, which is he doesn't have an excellent record against English teams in the Champions League. So that might be one to certainly keep an eye on, because he does have a huge amount of pace in his arsenal, if you excuse the pun. And on that note, and on that rather poor note, sorry about that, we should probably wrap things up. So we'll be back hopefully on Sunday before the Interlull, and talk about the yes, another break. Can't believe it already. And it's even more important to get that win, just to setups going into the break and have that maybe be second. That would be nice. And obviously we'll talk about the Champions League and everything else that pops up. Thank you guys. Thank you, Rob.
No worries.
Twitter handle for us, please.
At Rob Tomkinson 94.
Thank you very much. Matt, cheers.
Thank you.
Twitter.
At Matt D. Dawson.
Thank you very much. Just to say, we are looking for new members on the show. Hopefully looking to get a few new voices in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested, you can drop me a line at the 91st Neil. That's at the 91STNEIL, or at _ArsenalNet, or you can contact either of Matt or Rob on the show, and we'll be delighted to hear from you. Thank you very much once again, and see you next time.